Good morning. Fired up. I forgot my long USB cable. It's funny, I'm still watching hey, good morning all. Yeah, I got Toggle Bit still going. I love watching his channel. It's too bad that I wake up as he's always ending his stream. Alright, so we're gonna get going today. I can hear that Toggle Bit's about to raid me. It's too bad, because I want to hear more of his stream. Ooh, I get to be part of the raid to myself. Oh, this is awesome. Alright, so today we're gonna keep working on the callback bits. Um, There were a ton of messages in the Tokyo channel. Oh, they got a new website. That's right. Their website looks gorgeous. Looks really, really cool. Okay. So one of the first things we're going to do today is work on callback and having callback be that sort of a. Whoa! I'm now listening to myself on my phone. Let me turn that off. Good morning, everyone. How's it going? And I absolutely would love to make a programming language. I like watching people make languages. Museum was doing it the other day. Togglebait, you're doing that. I am not going to jump on that boat though. It's too bad. It's really, really too bad because I think it would be a lot of fun. Always wanted to make a programming language. I'd probably go through that entire make a Lisp. There's a couple that couple of these. What? Make a anime. Then it points to people's mouths. But going through and doing all these bits here, then changing it to whatever sort of syntax you want, it would be pretty cool. Implemented in 82 languages. Wow. I think most of them are self-host. Like you can end up with a self-hosted make a Lisp at the end. Oh, black screen. Oh my goodness. Boom. There we go. But yeah, on this here, this person has a fantastic little walkthrough on how to make a Lisp or make a programming language in Was it 12 easy steps? 13. 1, 2, 3, 4. 11 easy steps. Oh, it's zero based and he goes to A. Yeah. Well, thank you for the raid, Togglebit. Thank you. Always watch people's VODs on like 2x speed. It's always a treat to get to watch people live. But yeah, I ended up starting pretty quick today, so hopefully we don't have too many black screen issues. We'll see. Normally I work those out early. Um, so to catch people up, trying to reuse code between the server and the client. Okay. Server's using Tokyo, the client's using multitask, which is basically the core of small. And we have to use multitask instead of small because we want Godot to drive the local executor, which I think I just deleted because I didn't want to use it anymore. That's right. But it's nice. It's a lot smaller than Tokyo and should be compiling faster too. Especially since there's hardly anything else that I use with it. That's right. That's right. Huh, interesting. Anyhow, so we're working on the login system. We're trying to get a login packet to be able to be sent to the server. And part of a login packet that we have needs a callback ID. Basically, it's a kind of a request response system. So when you make a request, you include some sort of identifier with it, and the server responds saying, hey, for this identifier, this is the packet you get in a reply. Tried to use Tokyo for some easy networking stuff back in the day. Oh, when it was blocking only. Yeah. Doing some of the blocking stuff, though, I think was a great way to understand how async works, though, in Rust. Because if you go in and you start building stuff with async only in the pre-async Rust way, you get it. You understand how it works. It's really neat. All right. I have some water here. All right. Now, for the fun bits. I copied over the this code here. I think it was from login actually for this new type, and we need to actually convert this new type so that we can have these return bits. Now, oh, nice. You were learning language. You ended up using threads in MPSC. Yeah. Man, I am absolutely enamored with small. Small is it's pretty impressive. I like what he's going through right now and breaking it up into smaller pieces that are easier to use across different runtimes. Small timeout. That seems new. Huh. There's small stir. Who did this one? This wasn't him. Okay. Anyhow, We're actually not using small directly, but the O.2, I was looking at this the other day. This update here reduced the size of the build. Went through and just dropped a ton of dependencies. Ended up making futures light for it. Now it compiles much, much faster. Oh, what's the zombie thing? I'm not familiar with the zombie thing. Maybe I shouldn't be using it. Oh, Russ seems to be doing it right though. I love the way that you can set this up so that there's back pressure with async. Well, with networking. Yeah, and with async. If you set it up right. Oh, right. Wherever you enter your code base becomes async because you have one async thing. Yes. I'm trying to make it so my game server will run on a Raspberry Pi. It's silly, but I want it to run on something small. Okay, now in these cases, we're trying to get this callback thing set up. So when we create a callback and we go from bytes, callback needs to list what its type is. So it needs to serialize itself and then its inner type. Interesting. So game of the server. I actually want both of them to run on the Raspberry Pi. I was able to get Godot running on Raspberry Pi, but it only runs with GLES2 on a Pi 4. I think it'll run on a Pi 3 as well. So we'll have to see. I think it'll be possible to run it. I would like to, because that it just means that more people would be able to use it. Because if a Pi could run it, then phones can run it like any. I mean, a Pi is a decent little machine. Most phones are faster than Pis. I don't know, maybe not. The latest Pi is faster than some phones. Say like a Pi 3, Pi 2s definitely. Most phones are faster than Pi 2s. Alright. So how do I end up serializing this? So we're going to be pulling this out. Let's do the serialized side first. Alright, so in this case we're going to create bytes. So whatever T is, I'm missing a bunch of type information on this. What is it, C64 the 2020? Especially if you run a C64 emulator on it. Absolutely. Eyes are pretty cool. I've been really, really impressed with it. In fact, I gave one to my kid as a development box, saying, "Hey, it's a computer. Like, can I run Steam on it?" I'm like, "Nope." But let's clean a little bit of this up. It'll make more sense here in a moment. Jengtron, good morning. Marley DX. And thank you both for the follow. All right. So in this case, when we go from bytes to callback, basically this is going to need to take bytes for the callback off the stream and then bytes for T off the stream. So we basically need both of those. I would prefer to start with the serialization piece. Now, try from callback. Now in this case, we will have probably some information that represents callback. We need both of these to go to bytes though. I see. So when we have bytes for this callback of type T, I missed one T down here. There we go. We're going to just skip everything else, like all the T, all that. Callback here, when we say Saturday CBOR this, we're just going to encode our type and our callback ID, nothing else in there. So Rust in the title, became curious, because Rust seems to be having interesting concepts. Yes, I love Rust. I am 10 months new to Rust. So part of this little adventure is actually learning Rust itself. I am by no means a Rust wizard, but I've spent 800 hours in Rust. Probably more than that. Actually, let's see. I can click on my little insights thing and find out. Toss up another tab. We are. This is going to be one of those moments where I end up feeling really old. It's like, what do you do in your free time? Oh, I learned Rust. Actually, it's mentally engaging for me. I would definitely consider myself a programmer, and if I ever retired, what I would like do some metalworking in my free time because I like welding and metal casting. But I would definitely be a programmer in my free time. Yeah, we're coming up on 900 hours. We're 893. I think that, yeah, syntax is just going to be different. It's like learning any language. Especially if you're familiar with like C# and Python. I think those two are going to be very similar. Java especially. If you're familiar with Scala, you might. Yeah, I think with that background, you'd be fine with it. Good morning, glass of ethanol. How are you doing? All right. So those two pieces, we have to jump down to the bottom for this. Now in this, we're going to say this is a length of 1, and we are only going to be encoding callback on there. The problem with this is that we need to make sure that when we encode this as a packet, it has a right size payload. We'll see. All right, there's our little serialization macros. We do this because we're using a CBOR format, but we dropped the type tagging. Save some bytes on the wire. Cannot open file for writing, no such file or directory. Oh, you lie. You lie. Oh, because I spelled messages wrong. Messages, source. There we go. Cool. Let's close this other one. Fantastic. messages lib. Where's our giant list of modules? Let's toss that in there. Callback. There we go. Yeah. So when we encode a packet, we actually need to know. Yeah. So we go from callback for packet. We need a little bit more information on it. Either that or. Oh, this one's tricky. Because we need this to hold the other type in it. Now I would like it to have the same bytes here as the other one. It's too early for this. Oh, yours was Pascal, Common Lisp, CSC. Oh, yeah, Haskell, Scala. My only real foray into that ML family is probably Erlang, but it's not. It's like at the edge of that. It's not really a Haskell. It would be fun to learn Haskell. I think learning Haskell would help you understand the type system in Rust better. So if we take this from bytes, we're going to need to know that there's enough of a payload in here. So basically our codec system needs to know the size of bytes when it begins to write. So if we go back to the codec, let's go look at our encoder. Here's our encoder. And now we're encoding something that's a callback. First thing it's going to have to do, we got some subject information we're ignoring out of there at the moment. Change the subject if needed, that's fine. And in this case, we, we could either do this with two separate quote-unquote packets, or we could do this where one engulfs the other. So in this case, we end up sending the packet header, right? Which is the length, the kind, and then the information. Packet of data there is actually the serialized piece of data. Which does mean that we could do some crazy stuff with just codec, because could include packet.kind and some other information in that as well. We could have basically inner sort of packet, these three elements inside of callback itself. Or we pollute codec with that information. I would prefer not to do that. I don't really want to pollute codec with that. The problem, though, then becomes a subject. Because what if something has a callback that's also a subject? All right, yeah, let's try that out. We'll see how long subject lives. You're from the UK and you have a degree, results, but they've given you a weighted GPA, and you have no clue whether or not it's the correct amount. GPA being a good or a shitty one. Yeah, that's not really. I have never experienced a weighted GPA, and I've never known anybody that used one. Oh, it takes into account the difficulty of the course. Yeah, that's a new thing to me. So if you fail a really, really difficult course, is that like a C, or is that still an F? First class had honors. Oh, you had first class honors. Awesome. That's pretty sweet. Yeah, congrats on that. I'm gonna strip out some of those callback bits. Yeah, we're gonna leave the codec alone. See how far we can go with this. That's pretty high proof stuff there. All right. Sorry, I was trying to catch up on chat. I think we're gonna have to just add some of the encoding decoding bits here. We're gonna have to do this in the same vein, and hopefully we can get the same information going. What does our codec actually handle? What handles figuring out which type it is? So here we have a type ID, and we encode that like so. But when we get into the decoder, which I thought we just had some like giant case or something to decode. Which one is it? Packet, try from that. I see, so we're letting packet figure it out. Got it. Then we shuffle it around based on the kind in the system, and then later it'll get the data will get deserialized. Huh. So maybe callback holds a packet then? A little meta. It's not too bad. Kind of subject doesn't work then. Callback would probably have to bubble up the subject. There are so few programmers where I live. I love seeing the chatter, the programming chatter. All right. I'm thinking that callback doesn't take something of type T, it just takes. Just holds on to bytes. Is that gonna look weird? Let's say we're in net, right? This is on the client side, and the client wants to send something. That's requesting. This is outstanding requesting. Oh, yeah, down at the bottom. That's fine. That produces our callback ID. So in this case, we're sending a packet. That packet actually needs to be something else. In this case, it would be some sort of callback. We pass the request ID in, and then also the packet. Then once we have the packet, it goes over the wire, everything gets serialized. And on the other side, let's say we go into auth. Well, hold on, let's finish that out. We go through here, we receive something back. Is that going to be, it's going to have to be bundled up in a callback as well. So then we have a filter saying, hey, wait for that. And in this case, it's going to be a little different because we're going to want a filter map, aren't we? Am I using airline? Good question. I was actually looking at airline yesterday. I don't think I am. I was in the middle of thinking that I wanted to switch to airline. In the moment, I'm using Lightline. And the dot files are all up there too. On my other screen that you can't see, so I've got another Vim with airline. Good morning. Good morning, stupid gladiator. Uh, so Godot, there's a project for using Rust as a quote-unquote scripting language in Godot, and it's called GD Native. So if you've been using Rust, you can look it up on Crates.io with GD Native. Occasionally, we will go in and fiddle with GD Native and make pull requests. Oh, you've been using it for nearly a year. Oh, that's lovely. Well, I'm glad it helps. All right, so we got our ordering and all that down there. We return here. Now, what's going to happen here? We need a filter, probably a filter map, and then we can take this packet. So if the callback IDs are the same, we're going to keep it. But in this case, we don't want to return just a true or a false. We want to actually return the new type, which would be what callback actually is holding inside of it. Let's see, how are we going to do that in here? Let's break this out a little bit more. And what does filter map want as a return value? Filter map here. So this F, Takes a filter mute, takes an item, returns a future. Okay, so we still have to do the future ready bit down here. Because we should be able to not await inside of here. Am I using Deoplete or something? Actually, I'm using Conqueror of Completion, COC. And then COC has a plugin, which is COC Rust Analyzer. And then actually, during my day job, I do web dev stuff. And Conqueror of Completion has a TS Server plugin, which is just magic. Have I messed with, the NeoVim? I have not yet. I like COC a lot, and I'm not sure whether or not um, the LSP that's built in is going to have the same functionality. There's a lot of things that that you can do with COC. We'll see. I mean, it might end up having the same sort of functionality. And truth be told, I'm going to probably attempt to switch to it once 0.5 is like full on out. But no, I haven't tried it. I think I tried it once when I was first beginning. This is actually nightly NeoVim from maybe a month ago. Occasionally I update it. Oh yeah, and this error here is just a Rust Rust analyzer is not correct. All right, so we get this. And we do that. Yeah, and if you just tag me in the chat, it makes it easier to see these things if you're asking a question. If there are questions that I've missed, I apologize. Oh, current pre is fine. Oh, that's nice. Well, gorgeous. I'll probably update then. Yeah, maybe after the stream today, before work. All right, so we're gonna basically take this. We have to return a futures ready, but we can do some calculations in here. No, this has to be. Hold on, let's look at this again. This futures bit. I have to focus on this for a moment. Okay, so we have futures mutable that we pass in here. That's our outer function mutable. That's our outer wrapper. Okay, immutable means it takes ownership. And that returns a future option. Got it. That takes a self to item and returns a future. So we should be able to just return the future ready at the end. All right. So in this case, if we, can we just match unpack it? I think. Because if we match unpack it, can we get out the pieces that we want? We can deconstruct packet. Because packet in this case is going to be the callback, essentially. This is going to be a callback from the server. Let's rename that. Just use callback here. Callback that callback. Ugh. Oh, I hate that naming. Let's change it to callback.requestID. Yeah, that'll be better. Rename that from callback to request ID. Callback.request ID. We're either going to return a some or a none. Oh, we could try using some guards here. Or just an if else. Let's bail early. If that is not equal to that, just going to return a none to filter it out. Now everything else down here can be a sum. Otherwise, sum. Call back to bytes, call back to packet. Maybe a call back to packet. My Rust brain isn't like fully engaged today. All right, well, at least it's clear. That should work. Now, we also renamed something a packet. So instead of inner, packet might work there. It's really not a T anymore, is it? It's just a packet. Okay, now we can remove all of these bracket T's off of there. It's a DGN. There we go. Let's give that a rename. Request ID. We have inner. Inner is actually going to be packet now. All right. Hey, Pedota. Good morning. The LSP seems to work the same as anything else. Oh, that's cool. Okay, okay, okay. News. Three's Company. What? Go look at development. Pre-release. Oh, they say that's night. Let's see, they're still tagging that as nightly, right? The latest. Yeah, so this is actually what I've been using. Not a recent build though. Let's see. I'm using 508. And they're at 607, so almost 100 days behind. I'm 3 months behind. The app.image. Oh, I see. Yeah. I might try that later today. I've got like a huge bug stack at work though. Probably have to Probably have to put it off a day or more. Code action not found. All right, let's pull in some of these other bits here. Use bytes. Standard, where's try from? Twitch needs markdown support. Yes, it does. Oh, that's right. I was doing the quiz on there. It says an awesome sort of quiz to take if you think you know Rust. Torture yourself. Standard.rs/try from should get us to the docs where we want to be. Standard convert try from, that's where it is. Standard convert try from. Yes, got it. Okay. Message error. That's going to be probably with this. Message error. What next? Okay. Then we have packet. What do we do with packet though? And Reman 264. Thank you for the follow. Good morning. All right, now in some of these cases, so we don't have bytes mutable. Let's just pull some of this in. Bytes. It's mutable. Server bound packet kind. Data.writer. This we need yeah, a little extension tray for that. Let's import that. Is that not going to pull that in for us? Server bound packet kind. That's at the top of this crate, isn't it? No. Yes, we're in messages. Okay. All right, we create a packet here. What is this whining about? Missing field callback. Oh, I got rid of callback. Didn't I? Oh, my mistake. Oh, wait, do callback here. No variant of this associated with that. Okay, let's go check. Server bound packet kind should have callback. I see it's callback ID. Do I want to use callback or callback ID? Probably callback. That is no longer reserved by the codec, so we're taking that over. Which also means that we have to match some of this other bits. Okay, so 1. Callback there. What else? This one, same thing. Callback here. Not reserved by the codec. And in this case, we want to say use Time bound packet kind, everything in there. I want to get rid of those. That's so much nicer, isn't it? Okay, that might be okay. We'll let the compiler yell at us later. All right, now for these bits here. We have a callback. It's got a callback ID. It's going to wrap a packet. Constructor looks good. When we deserialize from bytes, let's see, at this point, gotta figure out what we're doing with this. Probably down here with these pieces. Because if we serialize, does packet actually implement serialize? I think it does. Because we can go 2 bytes. Well, not really. I mean, it's just going 2 bytes and not. Go from bytes and 2 bytes on this, right? From bytes for packet. Oh my goodness, my daughter finished her schoolwork already today. Ay, ay, ay. All right. So we do try from bytes for the packet, meaning we can go from the bytes to a packet. But we don't have serialize for that. Or deserialize. So what are we going to do here? We have too many layers here. So what's going to happen in the codec? Inside the codec, let's see, at the decoder or the encoder level. Let's look at the encoder for a moment. Where's encoder? Yeah, maybe this one? Nope, wrong one. That's a test one. Get a packet, comes in. We check the length on the packet. Packet.data.length. Basically, everything that we have needs to be encoded into the packet data. So when callback gets serialized, all that information has to be put in there. Am I building on UDP? I am not. This is all TCP at the moment. Makes it a little easier if I happen to be able to get this into, let's say, a browser. Browsers don't do UDP well. Also, corporate firewalls, if you want to play at work, sometimes block UDP. So I want to make sure that it can go through corporate firewalls as well. Yeah, throws UDP at firewall. Take that! I mean, unless we're going to play over like port 53, that would be awful. Play over DNS. One of the places that worked. Ended up having to build out a system for stats reasons that completely abused DNS. And We ended up basically generating huge numbers, including all sorts of DNS caches everywhere because of corporate firewalls. Corporate firewalls were caching things in really awful ways, and EDP jokes are like the worst dad jokes ever. Oh. But yeah, we found that generally in our stats that we were collecting via other normal conventional methods, about 5% of the data was being lost. It was amazing. Give me a moment. All right. So yeah, when we get our packet, the data of the packet actually needs to represent that other thing. So let's make this work. What are the concerns? We have a limit on the payload length, which also means, okay. Basically, we need a packet to serialize to bytes. So this can go from bytes, but we don't have a 2 bytes for this. So we've never really needed one. The codec handles that already. Simple. From packet 4 bytes. We need one of these. So one of my favorite jokes ever is a programmer's joke. It's a knock-knock joke. And you say knock-knock, and they say, you know, they're supposed to say, who is there? But before, like, as their mouth is about to form those words, you shout, race condition. Oh, knock-knock, race condition. Nobody ever gets that around here. I love that joke. It's my favorite knock knock joke. Knock knock, race condition. Sorry. Oh, it kills me. That's a great joke. Great joke. That is the echelon of joke around here. That and I've got this. Oh, I've been meaning to torture y'all with these. Um, I mean, share these. I got these as a gift. Um, let's see. What's it say? Oh, wow. 100 amazing corny jokes. And let's see. The one of the day is, what's the best way to contact a fish? You drop them a line. All right. Let me put that one in the back. Just one a day. We'll save the next one for tomorrow. All right. You drop them a line. That's so bad, it's good. All right. From packet to bytes. So when we're doing this, we basically need to to be the opposite of this other one, doesn't it? To keep them in some sort of parity. We're gonna need to know the kind. And the subject, maybe? Yeah, just lands with a thud. It's not fair. It's just not fair. Subject is getting me here. I dislike that I'm gonna have to encode the subject information in this. Because this try from bytes, subject is always none. I don't think I can do that in this case. In fact, I think that we should probably strip this out. Yeah, subject's gonna have to come out of packet, isn't it? Subject is this neat thing. Because I use UUIDs and I am incredibly stingy with packet data, um, I in the network you will often see like 5 to 10 requests all going through that are asking about the same object, right, with the same ID. So instead of saying, oh, this is the same thing, same thing, same thing, we deduplicate subject IDs. So saving tens of bytes on the network layer. But maybe we do the same thing that we're doing with callback with this. Rust Godot sounds like a great combo. I've been enjoying it, and some of the stuff that's coming out. If you're going to play around with Godot plus Rust, the GD native has a preview right now. Definitely use the preview. Oh, you touched on the networking bits in ToggleBit stream? All adding to the header. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't want to basically include that information all the time, especially for a game. Should just the protocol should just be a little bit smarter. Save a little bit of state on each end, and you can save a lot of data. Especially if you're trying to say, really, I'm optimizing this for the server sending side, right? I imagine that one of the bottlenecks in this is going to be probably whatever NIC I'm able to wire up to this. Because hopefully, if I do it right, there will be pathfinding CPU load, a little bit of AI load, and most of the bottleneck is going to be network. So if I can reduce the size of the packets and whatnot, hopefully then it'll reduce the strain on the networking. Yeah, that thing right there. Eesh. I mean, this is like a little kludgy. All right, we'll have to see where that ends up. I don't like that it's an option here. What am I doing that's not network heavy? If you end up with a lot of, when you end up creating networking servers, like game servers, you can end up in a situation where you have to broadcast lots of data to lots of people. So if you're not careful, you can very quickly fill up like a, I don't know, like a giggy line, right? Like 1 gigabit per second. If you're spiking, it's really about the spikes, not like the sustained throughput, but the spikes. Because if you're like in some epic battle and there's lots of connections and everybody's getting notified for like player movement in a very, very small area, um, depending on how much data you're actually sending for each of these updates, you can start to saturate it. And the smaller that is, and the more people you can cram in a single area, the better, right? You want to have lots of kind of players visible in a sort of a multiplayer game. All right, but I'm not addressing the subject. Didn't. All right. So bad. Now you guys got me thinking about like stupid like jokes. All right, let's do one more. Okay, next one on the list. How do you make an egg giggle? You tell it a yolk. Okay. Yeah, and dealing with ACK and TCP now. Yeah. I know, right? It's so bad. It's good. Exactly. Ooh. Oh, that. I'll, I don't know if it's just like make it stop. Well, thank you for the bit. All right. So, no, right? For whatever reason, bad jokes in like a social environment are good, especially when you know they're bad. There's a lot of you out there at the moment, and I'm sure that some of you haven't heard this one. Sorry, just last one. Okay, last one for the minute. Um, but I've got a bunch of kids, and one of my favorite things to do, as they were getting older, was tell them innocent jokes that they would then retell. But they're like dirty jokes that sound innocent. And one of my favorites was and imagine like a 3-year old in like that very kind of young voice saying to somebody, "I've got a joke for you. What's the difference between snowmen and snow women?" And then the person would say like, I don't know what. And then the kid would say, "Snowballs." I love doing that. It is so good, especially when you get a really young kid telling adults that. Because the kid's like so innocent, right? And they know what a snowball is, and they know what a snowman is, and snow women. Like, of course, there must be snow women. Um, you may have told your parents that 35 years ago. It's a fantastic joke, and I love to watch like the adult's face as the little kid tells that. Yeah, when we go from a pack to something, basically, if there's a subject on this, we need to bail because of how that's going to be used. Oh man, the way that codec is set up here is just wrong. Do you remember the joke I told you forever ago? Yeah, that one. Good luck. Good morning. Yeah, we're telling corny jokes today. I mean, at this point, if you've been listening to the joke, it might have been more of a signed side in. All right, all right. Let's figure out. I could just obliterate the subject ID for now and figure out if we can do that later. The problem is that some of these might. Yeah, because da, 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 da. I don't know. All right, for now we're gonna make it work, and then I mean it might. Ooh. Hey, it's all good. Okay. All right. Now in this case, if somebody tosses a packet in here that we're gonna do a search for a subject. If I could type, we've got a lot of nuns in there. That one has a sum. Maybe there aren't as many as I thought. Just get rid of that for now. Okay, we're gonna do it. We're gonna get rid of that for now. Oh, that's gonna be a lot of little changes. Okay. So you create account callback. Oh, well, that's for callback. That's right. We were adding callbacks to these. What else do we have? Callback, not that. Not looking for that. Callback, nope. Callback, nope. 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 Lots of little errors. I'm not seeing very many for packet missing that. That's a little disturbing in one way. Thought I was reducing that kind of packet load already. Oh well. Oh, I want type packet. There we go. We're gonna get rid of the subject, just use bytes. There we go. Now we should get more errors. And in this case, what were we putting in there for this subject down here? It was just none, wasn't it? Yeah, okay. All right, let's go ahead and do this. Now in this case, we get the packet, we need to go to bytes. So we need, what? We need the kind and then just the serialization of packet. Now, I've been doing that in a slightly clever way before. I don't know if it's clever. In an interesting way, to me, it's interesting. We've been doing this, but we then also had info for bytes on there. That's right, we were using try from on these. Because it's not guaranteed that Saturday is going to work with this. I see. The weird thing about packet is that the payload is already bytes, right? So really it's just prepending that U8 to the bytes that you have available. Can you do that with bytes? Can you toss something at the beginning? Bytes mute. With capacity, it's going to be data dot. Does it have a length? Oh, packet dot data length. So we're just adding one to it. Seems so weird. Why would we do that? What else can you do with bytes mutable? Well, let's look. They might have something available for this. Structs. Bytes mutable. Extend from slice. Okay, and bytes already can be represented this way. So we could say with capacity and then just extend from slice. Truncate with capacity, reserve new length. It's no like prepend, which of course we all expected. And what about the traits? Buff and buff mutable. All right, and these provided methods. Put. Yep. And get. Okay. Yep. I think we're doing it the only way we can. And then bytes, which should be mutable, will dot extend from slice, borrow packet dot data, which is of type bytes, and if you borrow that, it can go to the vector of U8s. What does that actually return? So we just return bytes. Oh, I forgot to put U8. That's going to be the kind, so packet.kind. We put the packet.kind, extend it from that. There we go, bytes mutable. What was it, freeze? To go to a bytes instead of bytes mutable, right? Ah, we need the trait in scope for this. That's buff and buff mutable. Okay. Oh, freeze is spelled with a Z, with a Z there. I always like saying Z, but it can so often be confused with C, D, T, P, all those E consonants. And there you go, vowels, yes, letters. And Z is so clear. All right. We have that. Bytes good from packet. Now, if we go into login, we doing in here? Oh, that's right. We were getting rid of callback on these. And the reason we're getting rid of callback is because we're coming up with a different system for it. That's right. Length is not 3, 2, and the order of these doesn't actually matter. That number is only used for error reporting. It's nice to have correct. Okay, callback, that goes away. So from callback for packet, yes, we did get rid of that. Did we finish with this? So when we have a packet, I think that's okay. But do we need to actually have a serializer for it? I don't think so. I think we can get away without having serialized and deserialized on packet because the codec takes the bytes out of the packet. What are we actually going to write here? You know? All right, 0, 1. In this case, this is going to be packet. Okay, and it's saying that deserialize is not implemented for packet. What should we get already? All right, what do we need? Because that's really just used here when we say to writer on this. So we go from the callback to a packet. We have a bytes mutable, we get the writer out of it, write to it. And we can do that ourselves, can we? I mean, what's left to have in packet? I mean, serialized packet should be pretty straightforward. All right, let's just what would we serialize packet as? We've never needed to do this because codec just handles this for us. This packet is the type that we give to codec, and we take the stuff out of packet. But now that we're having packet inside of callback, I don't think we should have to serialize packet because callback is now responsible for this. All right. Because callback is going to know that it has a packet inside of it. And it can serialize packet however it needs to. All right, so when we are serializing these, yeah, here's a rub. Callback becomes a packet at some point. All right, so when that happens, what is that going to look like? That's going to be, it's going to be a packet with callback inside of it with data. Because a packet has data, also has a kind. And then in our case, that data is going to be basically a serialized packet. So essentially at this point, we need to take and just write the serialized form of our data. Because the kind will get stuffed on there by codec. But then here, to be able to take this, to undo this, we just need, we don't need that at all. We don't need the writer. We need to freeze that. I think we just pass. Ooh, why does that say callback? Lowercase c, thank you. Callback to packet is already data, already bytes. Expected bytes found packet. Ah. Poofy, good morning and happy Wednesday. What Rust crates are we using? Uh, in this very narrow case right here, we're using the bytes crate. We're also using a bunch of other game server crates that are just part of this project. As a whole, we tend to use Serday. Serday and bytes a lot. Occasionally, you'll see TinyVec, I think. I've also been recently enamored with Small. So on the client, you'll see us using some of the crates that make up Small. SMOL. Sorry, I'm in the. Let me finish with this, then I'll get back to that. Callback.data.into, isn't it? So we just into that. No? Callback.packet into, and I should convert it into that correct type. Boom, there we go. What about window graphics crates? So on the server code, of course, there's no graphics. It's just server. On the client side, we're actually using Godot, the Godot engine. And the more the quote unquote scripting language that we're using inside of Godot is Rust. No, we're using Rust on the server and the client. Oh yeah. So here, check this out. GD native. We're actually using the preview 0 there. In fact, we've been contributing to GD native as well. So occasionally you'll show up here and we'll be working on GD native. Yeah. This has been fun working on this. I hadn't done FFI stuff, and there's a lot there. And if you go to the website, I say website, I mean GitHub. But down in here, there's even a user guide, which is kind of half built, API documentation. The user guide, I think, is already set up for using the preview version. Good morning, ExxonDev. How are you? And yeah, so this is what we're using on the client side. We're not using like the C# language that they or GD script, which is kind of Python-like, or the C++. We're using Rust. Why not? I actually just wanted to use it because I wanted the same language across both the client and the server. Keeps me from having to like mentally flip back and forth, because going between that Python-like GD script and Rust, just when you go back and forth, it's just like mind-bending. Find myself writing like let and const and all sorts of crazy stuff in GD script, and it just doesn't work. And then my Vim bindings aren't quite the same, and uh, so this is just nicer. How's your week going, Acton Dev? I need to pour some more water. Just a moment. Full half-gallon of water here. It's nice. There we go. Oh, you're very interested in both Rust and Godot. Oh, very nice. One of the things that you'll see that we're doing here that's a little bit different. So here, Godot Rust, if we go into issues and we look at the milestones, you'll see that 0.9 is this, focuses on solving long-standing problems in the API. And it's much, much nicer. I started with using 0.8. 0.9 is the preview is what we're using now. 0.9.1 is really what I want, and this is nowhere to be seen yet. And I've been playing around with async await. So a lot of the times you'll see some async await stuff that we're using that isn't in the 0.9 preview, but you can do everything that I'm doing with the 0.9 preview. So far it's really nice. I think that 0.9 preview is really going to add a couple of things. Await support on some of the yield stuff that GD script has. In GD script, you can yield on and await for signals to be fired, and we don't have that yet. That would be just amazing to have. The signals are such a core piece of Godot and GD script. I think that's just the big one, not being able to yield on things like that. You can listen for events, and you can have functions fire when events happen. All of that works. It's just that if you were trying to do something in a Rust async function and in the middle of that function yield for an event, that doesn't work. Oh, signals are all there. Yeah, the signals work. It's just the yielding for a signal. Gonna get rid of those. Callback for packet. I think we need the opposite. Don't we need the opposite? I don't think it's going to be far off for having being able to get a hold of get signals working with that. I think I'm going to be able to work around it pretty well too. All right. From callback for packet. Okay, let's see where that goes. I think that's all we're going to need on that. We'll see. That might come back. These look like the ones that have subject. Okay. Subject none. Some of these are going to be easy. Callback, yes. Okay, we're going to come back to that. Subject none on that. Callback. Okay, we're going to take callback off of there. As long as we haven't taken it out of... Where was it there? As long as we haven't taken it off of the struct, I think we'll be okay. Take it out of there. Disconnect. Subject, yes. Callback goes away. I'm going to leave that one there. Get actors. Subject none. Perfect. Callback still exists. Up top, yes, of course. But we're telling it to skip the callback. We'll have to come back to this anyways. Yeah, this is a strange one because it basically serializes down to nothing eventually. It's like a U8. Should just be its kind. Alright. Such field. Yeah, we're getting rid of that one on there. Disconnected. Get actors, get callback ID. Okay, another empty one. All that goes away. What about this? Did we? See, all of these are basically going to have to get their callback bits removed. I should probably just do that. This is going to be so intrusive. Callback none. Let's just start removing these callback IDs and looking at these elements. Not implemented. I love that the status callback is by default not implemented. That's so funny. All right. We're gonna go back to codec. No, callback. Is everything fine with callback now? Other than, well, those are gone. Try from's gone. This it? That's all we need. So we can take one of these from a packet. Okay, let's go to codec. Subject. There's our subject that we don't use very often. The Godot question. Yes. Sorry, I missed that. So I've used Unity professionally in the past. I've used Unreal Engine for fun. I've never taken anything from Unreal to market. And Godot, I'm trying out as the third option. Basically, it's I think more focused than Unreal. Right? Unreal is just gigantic. It's a huge, gigantic code base. I think that Godot is a much smaller code base, more approachable if you need to fix a bug in it. And Unity is closed source. So if there was something that you needed in Unity changed, you basically you're stuck. I also like that the license is wide open for Godot. Notoriously. Good morning and happy Wednesday. Magic MW, thank you for the follow. Um, so yeah, I think it's kind of the nice blend between it's popular enough that bugs get fixed on it for arbitrary platforms, right? For one-off sort of Android issues, but it's not so big that it's unapproachable. I also like the animation system in it. That's really nice. I like that they're starting to pull in some things that other engines don't yet have. What was it? If you look at their blog, quick aside, people. Um, the new global illumination stuff that's coming in for it is just amazing. If you give up writing your own engine, you'll be using these bindings. Oh, the other thing that I really like about this is how they bundle stuff. The bundling stuff in Godot for release is very scriptable. It's straightforward. Or was it? Where was it? Oh, here. Wow. They've had a lot of news since the last time I checked. But all the work that they've been doing for this global illumination is just so nice. And it's MIT licensed, right? So great. Now everybody gets it, which would be awesome. Oh, notoriously, part of this using Godot and Rust together. I actually was in the Godot code just a moment ago. So when we were here in this piece here, this is actually the client code. Um, and because we're just now breaking everything across the client and the server, um, what was it? A day ago, one to 2 days ago, I actually had it open, and we were doing login tests. And then we got to the point where we needed callback to work. So here we are. All right. So go back to codec. Codec is also used by the client and the server. So we're in this like interesting space where we can start to reuse client and server code, which is really nice, especially if I'm writing it all. Less code. All right, so when we decode data, split to n. Just hope I get the sizing right on that. I want to take a look just to make sure. Zero special, that's the subject, but here we try to encode something. Data.freeze. Why are we doing a data.freeze on that? Are we in the encoder? Let's decode. Try to form the packet from bytes. Decoder. Ah, yes, okay. So we're going from bytes off the network into a packet, which is why we do the data.freeze there. Try from that. There we go. And that should produce a codec, which then has the right size of everything. Is that going to work? Because let's say we have like 1 kilobyte of data. All right, what's data? What's data here? Is this sized correctly? Now we're only supposed to take the data off of that we need. Okay, I think that our try from might be wrong here on packet. Let's go back to packet. Yeah, there's an error here. Basically, we can only take the bytes that we need. That seems wrong though. Seems like the codec should have handled that for us. Decode data. What does decode data do? Because it's going to return just a piece of data. Split to n plus 2. Okay. Yeah, it should be fine the way we're doing it. All right. And encoding? How about encoder? Where are you, encoder? Just above the tests, are you? Yes. So with the encoder, we come in, we get a packet, check its length. Packet data length +1, which is fine. Because in the case of a callback, it's going to be the data is going to be already encoded with that. Okay. This might just work. All right. Go back to login in the client code. All right, here's the client code. We have the username and password. We're creating a login packet. We're going to do this net request thing. And in this case, we will await for a response for this request. I have request and I also have send. Send just is a fire and forget. Request is the new system where we're wrapping something inside of the callback and it's going to filter all the data coming back from the server or waiting for something very specific. So at that point, after we get the very specific thing back, we get a result and we toss that up on the UI. Okay. Now inside of request, we increment our kind of magic little pieces at the top for our request counter. So we have some sort of global counter that we use for our basically function callback IDs. So we increment it, we'll get that, and when it drops, it basically keeps track of this other counter that I just want to make sure that we're not leaking these things. So I have a little counter set up, create a callback, we get our packet. So this is our login packet in this case, our new request ID. Packet.callback, that's gone now, isn't it? It's absolutely gone. And then we call send, which is what we had been calling in the calling previously. We're just wrapping that. And after we call send, we start listening. So we get the node, basically the singleton. We get the script and clone the broadcast channel. The RX side of that channel. It's a npmc channel. We filter out everything, looking for the specific request ID. If the packet is not it, we filter that out. It is it. We return the contents of the callback, which is nice. We're hiding this callback thing from all the code in the client. Although all the code in the server is going to get exposed to it, I think. Interesting. Sorry, just having another thought on this. Yeah, this is going to have to change for the server code. Okay, we'll get there. Return that. We get the next one and await. That'll be our packet. And we return the basically content. So this is like what, gRPC sort of thing. I saw that the other day, the gRPC stuff. It's probably a bit too verbose to be able to use. Anyhow. Yeah, that looks good. And then we have our little bits after the return. Because we only use this type inside this block, we actually define them here below where we use them. It's a neat little place to just kind of tuck some type information. That's really cool. All right. That seems like the client stuff might actually build. Let's go look. Oh, no. Oh, because it pulls in the messages. Yes, yes, yes. All right. Position, path. All right. We have a couple different position types. We want the one in messages, though. Oh, does this one not have... subject. There we go. Path line 39. Let's clean those up. Which one's next? Yeah, we're going to get rid of that. And this. Oh, that's going to be so weird. So what are we actually serializing then? There's no need to serialize this. I'm sure we'll be coming back to that. Seriously. Well, thanks for hanging out with us. You take care. Oh, and then all the tests. I don't want to fix tests at the moment. Okay, link dead and ID callback. Link dead. There we go. ID callback. Oh, yes. All right, we're going to rip this out of codec. I think we can actually handle it upstream from codec. A little torn on this one. A little torn. It's just down here that we're having the issue. Okay. Ooh, create account. Yes. Perfect. Okay, we're starting to get further into the auth code. All right, now this is the part where I kind of thought about this earlier. And when packets come in from the client to the server needs a little bit more context than the client does. Can we go to where this is called, please? Oh, wow, it timed out. Get references on that. All right, well, create account process is probably called from auth-lib. Here. We just forward these on. The problem is that we need to know what the kind is of this message. And if the kind is callback, it's not very helpful. So it really needs to be callback plus something else. And it'd be fine if it was callback. Then we just have to look one layer in. Problem is I don't want to deserialize the packet until it gets to its destination. So callback probably needs to have information on what the payload kind is. Because we're just going to be looking at type of packet, and this is, so it's just going to be packet, grr. In this case, we won't be able to differentiate between a callback packet and the other kinds of packets. Blackbeard Bastard, thank you for the follow. And if we see that we're getting a type of callback, we could always deserialize it. Is there something else we can do with packet? At this point, this server-bound packet kind, that's going to be not create account, not login, going to be callback. Oh, well, let's go with it. Okay, server bound packet kind, callback. Sure, why not? Then what do we do? Then typically we will deserialize that, won't we? We'll say, hey, we need to have one of these things. Happy coding, yes. Well, thank you. Thank you. So we'll do a callback. Try from message value. Where are we getting this? This is it's actually from messages, isn't it? Is messages included here? Let's set a marker. Go up to the top. Messages. Ah, toss callback on there. Callback. Try from message. Isn't message in scope? What's up here? Yeah, it is. Message outgoing con state. Okay. Now, depending on the type of the callback, well, callback we could look inside of callback because the payload of callback is packet, isn't it? Yeah, it's a packet. So we can, at this point, process anything that needs that. So I think it's going to be callback and log, and both need to go inside of there. We'll end up having our little nested match here. Then if it's not callback, it's not an auth packet. Okay. Let's toss the same thing in there. Just to differentiate. Okay, not an auth callback packet. And now, message is going to be equal to callback dot packet. See, this is an incoming message. Did we unwrap that already? Yeah, we did a try from on that. Okay. No, that's on the kind. Ah, I see. It's message.value in that case. All right. Let's just pass in the value here. Instead of message, this process is going to not take incoming message. It's just going to take a packet instead. Oh. I don't want to rebind that. Okay, same thing here. Callback.packet for both of those. Now we have to change each one. Now we just have a packet and can create a count from just that. Do we use message for anything else in here? Oh, stream ID. Ooh. Okay. Stream ID. Yeah. Where was it? We were in lib. Let's go back to lib. That's the other thing that's in that message, isn't it? Because an incoming message is stream ID and a value, and in this case it's a packet. We could swap that out and just say we'll map that, or because we're also going to need the callback ID, aren't we? So at this point, either we pass message in, but that doesn't make sense. So we're going to need what? We're going to need the callback ID. We're going to need the stream ID. What else? The message, of course. The packet. We could get all of that before passing that into this. The process becomes a little bit more ignorant of where its data is coming from. Stream ID. Toss that in there. I don't know the type of that. Callback. Then we were. That might work. Something kind of like that. What is stream ID supposed to be, though? It's just of type stream ID. Okay. All right. How do we order these? So we'll have the packet. Well, let's give it some context first. We'll give it stream ID, message.stream ID. Then we'll have the packet and then the callback ID. Oh, request ID is what we're calling it. Is it just usize? It's supposed to be something like stream ID off of stream multiplexer. Stream ID. Oh, that's what I'm currently looking at. Yeah, it's just using usize, isn't it? In the tests, what about here? Don't actually pass that around that way. Is that exported in stream multiplexer? Oh, hey, Alex Shine, how's it going? Do I have any tips? I'd say treat it like any spoken language, right? If you're trying to learn Rust, um, basically have some destination in mind where you're going to use the language. So in this case, Rust is really great for things like servers and whatnot. It's breaking out into other areas, so like native Windows apps and things like that, um, games, GL stuff. I would definitely start with the learn. I think they did get this right on Rustlang. So if you click on their learn button at the top, right, getting started with Rust, these bits here, read the book. There's this course thing, and then check out the examples. I started with the book and then ended up going, starting to port a project that I had in the past, and that worked out pretty well because you read the book, you're like, okay, that's a lot of information. It's kind of heavy. They have exercises and stuff that you can do with the book, and that does help. But doing that, I ended up using also exorcism.io. They have a Rust channel, and that worked pretty well. Yeah, rewrite something you've already written. That's It's a great idea. Some of these little questions in here, where's the Rust button? Oh, Rust, it moved. It used to be down here in like the lower end of. Anyhow, I wonder if this is a random assortment. Oh my goodness, the little the gopher go, his eyes move. To whoever did that, you've got too much time on your hands. Way too much time. Oh, anyhow. Oh, they've got a Vim. Oh, that's Vim script. I think it'd be great to have a course just for learning Vim. Oh, Erlang's at the top. Wait, is that Lisp flavored Erlang? Oh dear. Haskell's over here. Great. Anyhow. Oh, here's Erlang. Yeah, the big E. Um, uh, that is Lisp flavored. Wow. Good morning, Museum. I mean, I'd start there. I think that's probably a good place to get you started. That's um, if you do ask channels in like Discord or places like that. Sometimes we've got a Discord going, and it's like when I'm not streaming, it's always just like random Rust questions, and you're more than welcome to toss Rust questions into someplace like that. Or if you are using crate that's specific, the Tokyo people are very very responsive. So their Discord is it's a great place to ask Tokyo questions and Rust questions that kind of cross over with Tokyo. Oh, Discord. Let's see, where is it? Copy. All right. I think that's it. Who knows? Might be the right one. Might not. We'll see. Yeah, you're welcome. All right, now this stream ID. That's what we were looking at. Stream multiplexer. Highly unstable. Yeah, it hasn't changed at all. There we go. I wanted to see if stream ID was a public thing, or was it just, let's see, incoming, outgoing packet, incoming packet. Yeah, it's just usize. Okay, we'll just use that then. That's fine. Then we'll do this. Create account, try from. That'll be message. Did I miss something in there? No, that's it. That's the packet. That should be there for create account, try from packet. Create account. Try from bytes. Oh, from bytes. Because we're passing the packet in. It doesn't really care for that, does it? Ah, it's just a from the packet. Okay. Expected struct messages. Create account, found struct packet. I thought we saw that. From create account. Oh, for packet, that's going the other way. That's going the other way. Okay, let's go back one. To the try from message dot data. There we go. All right. So now in this case, we've got what? A status callback. Status callback is probably going to be changing substantially here. So if the username isn't valid, if it's not an email address, we respond here. Oh, sorry, playing with that very noisy thing over there. Hmm. We should probably respond with something of type callback. So like let callback, that's going to equal to callback. I don't know, we can't do it that way, can we? We can. No. Then that's going to be request ID. And then whatever the payload is. And then we can send that back over. I don't know about callback status. It feels like we should just be passing status or something else. Where does error number come from? Messages lib. What do we have in here? Incoming channel. Server bound packet. We want the client bound packet. Kind. Okay. That's going to be something of callback with something else inside of it. And that something inside of it should be. No, maybe we'll just call it status instead. Error number. I mean, here we have success or failure. I think I kind of want something that's a little bit different. I like callback status because I like to localize the strings on the client. So maybe we just have like a status, let's stick with callback status. It's not my favorite. Is status callback, is that using callback status? Oh my goodness. Okay. It doesn't have a callback ID, which is fine. Maybe we just rename it to status then. Result. What else could we call it? I don't know. Well, let's not rename it yet. Let's just get it working. 'Cause I'm not sure Conqueror of Completion can rename everything when it's all broken. I think it'll do a pretty good job, but it probably won't reach everything. All right, then we have bytes, yada yada, kind and data. And what is data in this case? What in the world? Yeah, we don't need this anymore. Okay, we're gonna strip out that. I'm gonna use serialize, deserialize. Serialize, deserialize. This is going to be transparent. Oh, Saturday transparent. Okay. Ooh, those are some new ones. there any info for that? Oh, no, we've seen that before. Okay, new, add drive. It's not going to do it for us, though. Serialized and deserialized. Then we have those two. But what about transparent? Does that come in with those? Probably, because that is a property of those. I don't think you can parse those macro names yet. Oh, that's too bad. That would be neat, though. That would be really neat. All right. Now its tests are broken, of course. We're going to be coming back to the tests. Should we just do that real quick? Because really, this is just going to be represented as what, a U8 or something. This error number, that's, yeah, U8. What? Back pressure. Oh, we don't need back pressure anymore. We got rid of that, I think. Yeah, we'll see. All right, back to where we were. We were in status callback. The tests. We're going to serialize that. This expected, let's see, are we going to have a list marker? We are not going to have a list marker. And if we're using internal error, it's going to be a 2. So this just becomes 2. This looks good. A length 3. Data length should be 1. Okay. Now in here, our capacity is going to be 1. Do we even need that? Oh, you didn't expect that to take so long. Take. Oh, you. It was kind of quiet. Museum, did you miss the jokes earlier? Did I end up with a solution for my nothing in the packets? I think so. I think in this case, this is one of those um, where the packet is really just going to be encoded without the body to it. Yeah, I think having an empty bytes will do the right thing in the codec. That should be fine. So serializing and deserializing that should be perfect. Oh, when you made the LFE comment, you got here. Yeah. No, we were doing some pretty awful jokes earlier, like 3 a.m. style jokes. All right, so I think this is gonna work here. This one looks good. What is this? Kind is going to be equal to that. If status is not equal to success, then it's failure. Oh, no way. No. I'm not doing that. It should be one kind. Cards Against Coronavirus. Looking at home code. What is this? Oh, that's funny. Yeah, we run a family-friendly stream here, so we have to be careful. But yeah, that's funny. I'll take a look later. See, I don't like the fact that we're actually changing the kind of this packet based on whether or not it's a success or a failure. I don't like that. I would rather that just get encoded. Like it's just status callback. We don't change the kind, basically the packet kind, based on whether or not it's a success or failure. I don't like that. I wonder why I did that. All right, let's just change this from that to callback status. Rust Analyzer is doing pretty well for this being all broken. All right, there's that. CBOR stuff, fine. And then this, it's going to have basically a size of 1. Seems like a lot for that. We're writing status callback. Seems a little overdone for that, doesn't it? And this whole from slice bit is really, it's reading a U8. No, I'm going to leave it. Might change later. Okay, and then we had been over in create account. We have a status callback. We're going to say, oh, you know what? There's an internal error, or your stuff doesn't match error. Oh, that's great. Okay. Now in this case, we're going to have the callback here. We have the request ID that we're passing back in. Now this has to be a packet. So we'll into that. Now we have our failure. We've got our callback or response. I don't know. Request, response. Just calling it callback for now. So our stream ID, we don't have message. It's a packet, but there's no stream ID on that. So we're sending it to everybody that does that. Oh, and we're using 1.4.5. And I think they got const on this, didn't they? We now use array for this, can't we? Because new here takes anything that can go into iterator. And now into iterator is implemented on const array, isn't it? Lovely. Oh, it's not on arrays yet. 1.4.6 maybe? It got delayed. I remember when it was announced, like we first saw it tracking for 1.4.3. All right. And failure.into. What is it intoing there? This needs item where item is v, and v is what? It's probably a packet. go ahead and dot into on that there. Then we'll just include that. Type info, a little bit more obvious. Yeah, 145 just got released. Oh, const generics. I see. All right, then we send that. We await it. Return an error, not a valid username. This internal error, I don't like this. This here should have been something else, like we're in what? Create account? Yeah, we're in create account. So we should return a valid error number. I think error number should probably be larger than a U8. We're probably going to have more than 255 of them. But for now, let's create another one. Invalid username 4. We should probably say, you know what, this is going to be. Well, let's group them. How about this is 32? We can do like login stuff. Auth, account creation, login, log it, log in, etc. Oh, you should also get a dot one. What got messed up in 45? This is silly. Okay, going back to create account. Oh, trying for that fix me. Interesting. Hmm. Constant generics. Oh. All right. He doesn't want to enable it because it uses internal length as most 32 trait. Oh, I see. Oh, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, I would prefer the const array, but having the vector there is fine for now. And this isn't going. I wonder what the performance difference is going to be there. Well, I think that we did this because we wanted to hide the internal implementation, which is tinyvec. So in fact, we're doing a tinyvec from that. It's because it's in Stream Multiplexer. So we were hiding that across that API boundary. All right. Lost some windows. Let me pull those back. Okay. Oh, but it makes small vecs? Yeah. Time check. Okay, I think we're good on time for today. Let's keep going. So we do that. Do we get to that? Callback. It's callback ID now. It's fine. Create account in current. I'll wait for that. So we get, this is doing the database call. Now in here, oh, you could totally do into it or copied there. Oh, it is copy, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, just mem copy the use size. That's true. Hmm. But how could I actually take something of that kind? Because, yeah, stream ID is definitely copyable. Well, wouldn't that wouldn't fix this, would it? Because on this side of the crate where we don't know what this is, this here, it doesn't yet have an iterator on it. Like we can't do the same sort of iterator. Because we can't have this or the static. The item can be stream ID and stream ID. Oh, just use the static slice them. So here for now, so it'd be like that. Oh, I see. Array into decomposes into slices, I see. Oh, it's a borrowed T, I see. Oh, interesting. If I did copied, that would be just fine. Oh, I get it now. Huh. All right. I'm gonna have to make a note on this because I don't want to do that crate right now. Where's my task list to do? The array validator or whatever feature makes the iterator actually move the array. I see. So you get the owned item T. All right. Well, thank you for that. We will probably do that, but not yet. Too many changes in flight. All right, I've got that on my task list. I do want to play with that. That'd be nice to do. Instead of it borrowing, then just calling Intuitor on it. All right, now in this case, we get the database response, get the ID, initialize, connection state. Why are we doing this? Now we have stream ID. Where did account ID come from? Oh, that's part of the match. Account ID, fine. Now we're going to have another outgoing thing to change channel. That's right, for stream multiplexer. So that's going into character selection. Fine. We send that. Now for our ID callback. ID callback's interesting. I think we could just get away with having something of type ID. So we're not going to have callback in there anymore. This is going to be... Do we already have something? Some message? What about in lib? Just some little type sitting around in here. UUID thing. Nope. All right. Serialize. Deserialize. On there, we're going to make this transparent as well. Transparent on that. Okay, let's double check this. From bytes. That should be fine. 17. Now what does serializes to now? No, it's 16. Because we're no longer including the other type on it. Okay. Which was the callback ID. Which was probably wrong, actually. Oh, it's going to complain about it. Okay. I'm going to copy that comment next to the note. Oh, I paste as plain text. Whatever. Okay. That's our expected. What are we doing? We're going to serialize this. We don't have a callback on it anymore. Into packet. There's an into packet function? Who calls this? Oh, really? Who calls? Oh, I see. What was this originally? This has changed like 2 or 3 times. Originally, it had the callback ID and then the type ID. All right. Seems fine. So it's writing self to that. ID callback should be serializable. Yeah. But why are we adjusting the kind based on... Okay, I don't like that at all. And this should just be from packet to, or rather from ID callback to packet. It shouldn't be selectable like this. And Qualia Byte, thank you for the follow. Creolist, thank you for the follow. And if I'm saying that wrong, let me know if you have a preference. Alright, so yeah. Should be... actually, what are we using in the tests? Are we actually using that in the tests? Yeah, into packet. Alright, let's change this. Impl from... I guess that could fail. Maybe it's a try from? ID callback. So we're going from ID callback to packet. Oh, actually, let's use a little... There we go. The error is probably the CBOR one. CBOR error. 42 viewers. Dang. Out of curiosity, why do people watch this? My kids want to know. They don't get it. They just don't get it. And I try to explain it to them. And from a simple point of view, should probably change it on the caller side, not the stream multiplexer side. I did say that it was a highly unstable API. I'm doing all right. Thank you for asking. Lurking and working. I hear you. Yeah, I've heard the voice thing before. Well, I also like kind of hanging out with coders. That's part of why I like watch streams. It's in part of the world I'm in, and we don't have very many coders. Oh yeah. My job is to embarrass them. That's right. I don't know. My kid was rather nice and didn't slaughter us in our D&D campaign this past Sunday. I gotta say, I was absolutely looking to. Excuse me. I was absolutely looking to get an afternoon, and so I tried to kill my character. I didn't tell her this, but I did try. I totally went Leroy Jenkins up to this blue dragon and talked to it. But apparently I didn't insult it, so it didn't kill me. but I thought it was just going to obliterate me. Yep, this is Rust. And welcome everybody. All right, now what was I doing for some of these? Try from packet. Do I have a common sort of error that I do on this? Looks like I don't do that, do I? Is it normally just a from? Yeah, it's normally just a from. All right, let's go that way then. Hey, Vim had a little glitch there. I don't know if you saw it, but I like it. It restored a previous buffer for just a fraction of a second. All right, so in this case, we don't have self error. We're just going to return packet. So we have to create a packet from this. All right, now to do that, what does a packet have? It has a kind and it has bytes or data. All right. What is a kind for this? ID callback, do you have a kind? You're just here to backseat and elucidate. And I like learning too. And I actually find watching other coders code to be educational. I so rarely get to watch people use the editors that I use, like Vim, right? And so I tend to watch people use Vim, and especially at work. There's one guy that's just brilliant in Vim. So we're all on site. I'll sit next to him just so I can watch him use Vim. Oh, is Mr. Ellis using any library for the communication or doing it using the standard TCP UDP? Yes, this is TCP that we're using, and it's a modified CBOR format. So we basically use CBOR for encoding the values, but we don't use CBOR for tagging the types. You have a function like that until the feature is stable. Copy link address. Let's take a peek real quick. I'm gonna toss that in with my notes as well then. Oh, I see. Copy it on that, yeah. That's cool. Toss that in with my notes. All right, when we get to that point, hopefully we get to that point before actually the constant generics lands. We'll have to see. All right, and what is the kind for this? The kind on this is going to be ID callback. It's going to be client-bound message kind. ID callback. And the data on this is really just that type ID. Which really is just this bit here. Toss that up here because we already have that. Bytes me. We have the capacity. We write that out. And I think it's just the UUID that we're writing out now because value there. Okay, ID callback. That's a UUID serializing, really. I'm going to leave those little helpers there in case this ever becomes more than just the type ID. Looking for something more hardcore than IntelliJ? IntelliJ is really awesome. And the Rust support is really good with that too. All right, and client bound packet kind. Why? It does exist. Oh, we didn't import it. My mistake. From crate. We're in messages. Yes. Client bound packet kind. All right, now what about this? We no longer have a callback on there, which is so silly because it's called ID callback. That really has to get renamed. Default ID. So previously, um, because we include basically what the type of the entire packet is, we strip out the type markers occasionally. And in this case, I don't think that we need the type marker here. We might still need that to say that it's an array of 16 bytes. We'll have to double check on that. Because that would be 1 byte there, and would mean that we needed 17 here instead of 16 for the capacity. I mean, it would grow, but it'd be nice to get it right the first time. So yeah, CBOR is actually going to include that there. Trying to VS Code, yeah. All right. One more test. We're getting rid of the list marker there. It's all zeros. ID callback. We're not doing into packet. We're just doing into. And actual length is going to be 17 now. Okay, good. I feel like I missed a step down here. No, that one's okay. All right, just the encoding one. Time-bound packet kind. There we go. And if I miss one of your questions, just tag me and copy paste it in there again. And now, how do you... Is it Forksy? Thank you for the follow. And Atomator, thank you. All right. This one's a little heavy for me right at the moment. We're going to get rid of this here. Not going to use that anymore. So we're going to use just one type of callback. Oh, has an underscore on that. Ooh, no associated variant called ID callback on client-bound packet. Ah, because it's supposed to be callback success. I do want one that's just ID. Because what is this doing? This is just giving us just a packet that represents an ID. It used to have a callback though. This is used for like login when you're authenticating. It's like, hey, this is you. I mean, it used to be subject ID. We could repurpose that. We could just say, oh, it's ID is a 5 here. I'm missing something. ID callback. We're in messages, right? We're gonna rename this. Conquer of completion. You can do this. Come on, baby. Oh, it's gonna do it. Awesome. 6 documents. Yes. All right. We're going to have to get you some on-screen notifications so you don't sound so schizophrenic. How do you know I'm not schizophrenic? Is sounding schizophrenic a bad thing? So minor thing I like about Go is iota for doing series and consts. Oh, that's neat. Yeah, we've actually got another project that's currently being worked on for building up um, building up a little bit of Twitch stuff. I was looking at some terminal stuff that I might be able to get on screen. But I wanted to use Museon's Twitch chat crate also for that. I was curious, Museon, how is the Twitch chat crate coming? Is it settled for the moment? One powers it two? Oh, no way. Really? All right. Sorry, I'm getting messages off screen. There we go. That looks okay. We're going to enforce that this thing doesn't have callback IDs and whatnot around it. It's transparent. We renamed it to ID. Should probably do a get move on it as well. All right, let's do that. Gotta go up one. Git move that to this without the dot callback. Forgot on that. Close that. Let's see, messages lib. That's just ID now. Good, good. All right. Let's go back to auth. Auth login. Here we go. Write everything. It's gonna take it a moment. That is very useful. That is really cool. Yeah, it'd be nice if that was just baked into Rust. All right. Oh, that's that one. I actually wanted to go back to which one? Auth-lib. We're just working top down, so we're in create account. All right. So when we get to an account ID, we have that there. Yes, yes. Outgoing send. So one thing to understand here is that with Stream Multiplexer, we actually move people between channels that have individual back pressure in them. So here they're going from the auth channel into their character selection channel. And each channel only handles certain kinds of messages. All right, now here, get rid of callback. Make this a packet. Toss an into on it. New on that with callback ID or request ID, we called it. And then create account success in there. Do that as well. Hey, Cyberpunk Computing, how's it going? Check out code organization. Always place everything into one file and don't separate it into multiple classes until after it becomes unmanageable. That's not, I mean, it's a way of doing it. I think after you just kind of get better at it, you start to realize like, oh, I need this out there somewhere. Typically, when I'm coding, I'll get into like a stream of coding and I don't create lots of new files and stuff like that. And I'll come back and move things at the end. I don't want to interrupt the stream. Oh, oh dear. We have that, which is identical to the other one. Maybe we just collapse those. All right, in this case, this is messages ID for now. Where is messages ID? Let's toss a fix me on there. All right, that's also what I do with my little love notes to myself, is instead of stopping to fix everything, I'll just leave little notes to my future self to go back and fix these. I've seen that in some of your playground files. Like everything's in the main function, even the types and all that. It was 2 days ago, or yeah, 2 days ago. All right, now here, if we get an error, is this correct? That looks correct there. Now in the case of this error, callback status, we have callback. We're not doing that the same way anymore. Now this one might actually be a valid internal error. In this case, it just totally failed that. And we gave this a better name. Is it invalid username? There we go. So now in this case down here, this callback, status callback is going to be different. Let's do the same thing. We're going to toss a packet on there. Into that. Let's get the boilerplate stuff done. Packet is equal to with request ID followed by failure. And 2 on that. CI right bracket. Does it not do that? CI right. Ah. I've got some syntax error. Okay. Stream ID there. Good, good. Am I muted? I am not muted. I don't think I'm muted. Yeah, the mod system in Rust is much nicer now. Oh, you can hear me fine. Okay. Yeah, if my audio is a little low, let me know. I can change that. Now, what is the error case that this is actually handling? I should have commented on that. It's probably a DB error. So when we get this, how can this fail? Yeah, spiner errors. Couldn't insert, database blown up, that sort of thing. Okay, let's make a little comment there at least. Yay, capitalization. Didn't mean to do that at all. That's fine. I'm gonna hide that behind some strange opaque internal error. Oh, Control M is a mute tab in Firefox. Huh. I didn't know that. That's neat. All right, now this here, we have status, or status callback. Wait, in some cases we are sending an ID callback, some cases an error callback thing. Basically, the packet's going to be different depending on the type that is. Ooh, this is a little gross. Oh yeah, did you know? Yes. All right, I'm not a fan of this returning two different kinds. Oh, here, in this case, it's a success packet, and in this case, it's basically a failure packet. I don't know if I like this. Let me think about that. So here, we end up with just a UUID. Basically say, here's your response. So it's an ID, which means it's a success. In this case, it's a status, which means it's a failure. Now I get why it was an ID status, like a ID status. Yeah, to the client. Yeah. I mean, just by fact that it's an ID, it's implied to be a success, right? And then the other case, so then in the client, where we get back to login, just login here. Oh, that's not it. If I type Rust login, we get to the right one. So here we have this end result. And we would have to match based on the type, because we're going to have a packet. The packet will have a kind. What does this return? That's a result. It's either going to be some sort of result or an error. Okay. See, we couldn't do this in Godot before. This, so some of the other patterns are just strange now. Now in this case, this error is going to be a map error, basically what our send was. Yeah, something like that. fix me, wait for reply. Oh, that's what we're doing right now. Okay, now here we might actually have two different types. So if the packet, oh, we can start to break down packet here. Packet, CKET even. If the kind is ID, oh, but then we're gonna have to do it for every single one of the kinds, aren't we? So if the packet kind is client bound packet kind ID, and then we just have packet there. Then we do this. Otherwise, if it's okay and we have, what is it, status error something? You have a fall through. Yeah. Because in this case, we're getting a status callback. And it's really just error number. Status, maybe? We're going to rename that to status. Sure. Only one file? Oh, did it say 8? I don't know. There were a number of them. Okay, auth login. We're in the server code here. Oh, that's right. We didn't finish this out. Oh, you know what? I think I just butchered some changes that we had previously. Yeah, this file just got eaten. Oh, this is login. I'm sorry. Yeah, this is login. We were in create account. I was confusing the two. Okay. We were over here. So we have status. We get that. We'll just call this status. Status, status, status. Does this look legit? It looks good. Okay. Back to the client. So in that case, we will have legacy Rust login. What is the type? What is the client bound packet kind for status? There should be something off of status for kind, you know? Callback status. You are now just status. I want to get rid of those two up there. Okay. So it's either going to be status or ID. Then we have the packet. And in this case, ooh, that was strange. We have some sort of success. And in this case, it'll be some sort of failure. All right. Unimplemented for the moment. Actually, I still want those. Yeah. Drifting aloft. Good morning. And thank you for the follow. Okay. Hmm. Let's go back to auth-lib, because I think we finished with create account. Now we have login. I'm going to need to do something very similar for that. Message stream ID, we'll pass that in. Callback packet. We'll also need the request ID. Then the outgoing channel. Okay. Stream ID. This is just a usize. Then we have the packet, and then we have the request ID off of the callback. All right. Now in this case, we get the value off of the packet, which, oh, that's wrong up here still. Now we have packet for message. And in this case, we take message.data as a login type. Login started for so-and-so, got our tracing going. Okay, login to callback. That goes away. I see, so then we just pass the whole login packet over to the database wrapper, checks for login for us. In the current span, interesting. Huh, wonder if I should be doing that elsewhere. This has to do with our tracing. We're using Jaeger with some tracing framework stuff. And in this case, we can ensure that await happens in the same span. But I didn't think that we needed to do it that way. Okay. Arbitrary delay. Should have like a difference. Like if it's a dev mode, like if you're developing and it's a debug build, just use 1 or whatever for the delay. Otherwise, use the range. Is there any other way to protect against those hacks? Those brute force things where they try to guess the passwords depending on how long it takes for the check to fail. They can actually get further in the hash and they can guess the password based on that. I forget what that attack is called. Constant time hashing? I see. Oh, that makes sense. Well, timing out after a certain number of attempts. It's really to protect against the hashing that isn't, as Musing said, constant time. Decrypt, etc. I see. I wonder what I'm using. Good luck real quick. So in this case, when we do log in, we're using Argon 2D. It is constant? Okay. Well, then we can skip the delay. I wonder if there's anything else in there that I'm protecting against. Login. Oh, also the database lookup, see if accounts exist. Well, it makes things way more confusing in the future. Ah, yes. I'll let future self deal with that. But then, yeah, also failing early if there's a database record or not. Make it harder for people to guess usernames. I don't know. This was done so early in the project. I'm not going to spend much time in there. All right, we got some jitter. So just like before, change the channel. Now in this case, we're going to do this. Toss packet on there, into, remove that. This is going to freak out because it probably thinks of game types here. Just be clear. Love note to ourselves. All right. That's with our request ID, and then what do we have next? Okay, so callback request ID with login success. Into on that. Now we have a packet. Whoa, too far. Whoa, I deleted way too much code there. That's working now. Stream ID. Yeah, the other file I just didn't like. So we send it, we await, login successful on that, and metrics. Are we still doing that? Oh, when looking at the response time tails? Yes. Just a timing attack? Okay. Hmm. Seems like timing attack covers so many sorts of attacks. All right, now on legacy Rust, then we should have both of those back. Now, what do we do if we had something that was successful? In this case, we need to change scenes. Scene manager. Go to. Oh, and this is going to fail. Oh, okay, we'll do this. Scene manager go to, and we need to give it a path. The path in this case is probably going to be res colon slash slash scenes. Boot. We could go to boost. It's supposed to go to like a loading screen, right? But we haven't built that out yet. If we go back to welcome, that should just work. I'm gonna put this here for both of them for the moment. They could go to bootstrap, whatever it is, just to make it start over. Rust's hash map uses a DDoS resistant algorithm for the same reason. Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, it'll be a most max time. Okay. Given a handcrafted garbage won't cause the hash to go into an infinite regress state. It is awful for small values. Oh, I see it. So sip hash is constant. Very nice. Huh. The problem with this here is that this go-to isn't going to work because why? I don't think this is going to work. I know we have a scene hold at the moment, but when we call go-to, is that going to matter? Because we'll be doing this. We'll cast the instance, expect Godot, we'll map this, and then we'll call go-to scene, which should... Ah, it does it inline. Okay, so it's not a deferred one. So we need to drop that scene hold. We gotta either pass it in or drop it. Because we're done with it at this point. Say like go to withhold. It's not constant, just amortized with guaranteed upper bound. I see. Pub function, go to withhold. Scene hold. And then we'll have scene path. A string. Returns a bool, just like the thing we're going to wrap. What did we call that up here? Underscore scene hold. Okay. Something like that. And in this case, we just stay on the same scene and show the login error. Okay. Oh, and now, well, in this case here, we should be able to show the right error. Actually, that one doesn't change. Okay, that doesn't change scene. We get the error, and at this point, we're supposed to show a specific error message. It was status, wasn't it? I don't think that exists. Status. Okay, well, let's just do it from the bytes then. Packet.data. Yep, try from bytes for status is right there. And now, if we recognize it as one of the one that we can actually translate. We can show a more accurate error message. Status dot what? Status dot status? That's kind of gross. Status dot status there. All right, and we recognize error no login invalid something invalid username, something like that. And if we get that, we'll use error create account username. It's probably this. This is inside of the CSV file that Godot uses for translating strings. Email address not accepted. Wow, so creative. Oh, you know what? I'm also conflating these two different login and create account flows. All right, this should probably be, let me make sure I got that right. Login. We'll come back to that. Yeah, here we didn't continue with this port. That looks okay. Yep, that's good. This down here though, didn't fix this one. Into on that. Patatas, how's it going? All right, this will just take a stream. There. And what was error in this case? Oh, that one. Okay, that's good. Oops. I lost my mouse. Okay. That error message is still wrong though. It's not internal error. So if you get some sort of message here, so we're matching. Yeah, we don't exactly know what the error message is. It's more like a login failed. So let's just do that. Huh. Okay, then we have login failed, and that's our status. We'll send that back. Now we can go back to the legacy Rust login code. And instead of it being invalid username, this is login failed. Oh, strange. There we go. Okay. Now what are we going to do? In this case, we need to get the TR correct error message. Let's see. What is the correct one for that? So close. I think it's just going to be error login. So technically that one's right. And if we get something else back, now we can do like some sort of TR, server error or something, internal error. So do I not have an internal error for this? Some generic RB dragons. .418, yes. Teapot. Teapot. All right. So I like the 418 idea. That will work for me. Serve as a teapot. Make sure we have that. Oh, and I'm so... Okay, leave that there for now. Resisting the urge to sort those strings. All right, then we can use that here. Done. All right, I know there's a ton more errors. No such field, yeah. But we're gonna be working through those as we go. Yeah, I don't have a teapot emote of some sort. That is, I mean, is there like Unicode for teapot? Where's, like, there must be like, oh, in 20, okay. Let's see. It's gonna paste. My browser doesn't show it. Does that show for anybody else? Wow. Well, I think we made some good progress today. It looks like there's waffles. Oh, I didn't know they were making waffles today. I wouldn't. Waffles and coffee already? All right, y'all. I gotta run. Now this has been good. It's been really good. See, any of you guys gonna stream Rust? Could raid you. Go for some coding, Museum? Oh, sorry, I was stretching. It's a square in Chrome? Oh, wow. No for Firefox. Oh, you're gonna stream next week. All right. All right, well, we'll give you a couple minutes. And then I'm off to coffee and waffles. My daughter's asking, why is the server a teapot? Oh my goodness. Okay, so TCP, wait, no, HTTP error code 418. So one of the valid error responses that the browser can receive from a server when making a request is 418. So you'll have things like 404, which means like page isn't found, 405, access denied, different things like that. 401. Regardless. But this is a test one, right? So in this case, the HTTP 418, I'm a teapot client error response code indicates that the server refuses to brew coffee because it is permanently a teapot. Combined coffee slash teapot that is temporarily out of coffee should instead return 503. This error is referenced in the hypertext coffee pot protocol. Excuse me, I said that wrong. Hypertext coffee pot control protocol defined in April Fool's jokes in 1998 and 2014. So that's why it returns 418. It was an April Fool's joke. But always, so now there it is. Status 418, I'm a teapot. Always good for a laugh, actually. If anybody actually wants to use that in their own servers, it's good to read up on. So, maybe this. Now look at HTCPCP. What is that? Which is an answer claim. That's funny. What is HTCPCP? Okay, I'm not familiar with this one. Is that in this? Oh, the hypertext. Oh, that, yes. This one. I'm a teapot. Coffee. Your eyes scheme. Because coffee is international. International Coffee URI schemes. Oh, wow. Somebody spent way too much time on this. A start and stop for your coffee, okay. Entity body of a post or brew. That's cool, brew. Request must visit content type. That would be awesome. Somebody must integrate this into like some valid thing. All right, but speaking of coffee, we're going to raid Museum, and I'm going to have coffee and waffles. So, for those that aren't familiar with Museum, Museum is brilliant at Rust and does not talk during his stream. So, sometimes there'll be like J-pop or something else going on. But you don't understand something, ask him questions, whatnot in the chat. And if he's not too focused on the code, he will respond. He, they, I don't know, Museum. Museum's Museum. I know very little about Museum other than that brilliant Rust coder that tends to actually mentor me, and I'm very grateful for it. So we're going to be raiding Museum. Until next time, bye, y'all.